Hello, hello. We are the
Hello.
Transpositions.
We,
Kind of.
Welcome to our show.
Amber's hiding.
The camera doesn't want to play nice. There we go.
Oh, there we go.
All right.
Amber's not
Technology,
hiding.
you know?
Yeah,
Y'all talk amongst yourself for a minute. I got to sort myself over here.
Oh, also technology. Adventures.
technology. Yeah, something's retrograde. Aside from me,
Yeah. It just
I'm
oof.
totally retro.
So much oof. All the oof. So it's been an adventuresome few days in news and assorted goodies. I'm sure we're gonna get into a whole lot of that.
Probably.
But
I've had my head in the sand.
oh, that's probably why.
Actually,
because-
I've had my head in the sand, mostly actually buried behind a sewing machine and sailing on sailboats and stuff. So I'm sorry, I'm out of it.
no,
You'll have
it's
to bring me up to speed, and I'm sure
Okay.
I'll have some pithy comments on whatever y'all are gonna bring forth.
oh yeah, there's quite a bit of sauce, but most of it's just a mess. Like the usual thing, right wingers are taking a little bit of tea and trying to make an entire stew out of it, and it just anything to distract from the Epstein files, you know?
I'm
Well,
straightened
we
out
don't
now.
have-
My audio is
we don't
fixed.
have-
Yay!
We
What
don't
a
have
mess,
Carly
what a
tonight.
mess.
We don't have Carly tonight. No sports except for what yours truly brings up. But
Yeah.
I don't know whether I've got really any good.
I have a little bit about AB Hernandez and what's going on out in Cali. Other than that, I don't have any sports either. But yeah, there's it's kind of hard not to make it about the tonight's show about the Minneapolis thing. You
Well, we could.
know, yeah.
I mean, just
Like-
because the right wing wants to talk about something doesn't mean we have to.
Yeah, but every time that something like this happens, the first thing that they do, I shouldn't say the first thing they do. What you always have to go look. I'll be on the lookout for this picture of Elena, because anytime that there's any kind of shooting, they always post this picture on all the accounts with the American flag as their logo.
Mm-hmm. All
They'll
the
take
bots.
they'll post a picture of Elena and holding her gun, and to make a stand that trans people shouldn't have Second Amendment rights, like veterans too. Elena's a veteran.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
You're a veteran,
you
Ember.
know-
How do you feel about not having your Second Amendment right because you're transgender?
I mean, I have very nuanced opinions about the Second Amendment, but to withhold that right from anybody because of what kind of person they are is the kind of thing that the military gets used to defend against.
Yeah.
Well, it's they're not specific to the Second Amendment. They don't want us to have First Amendment rights, Second Amendment rights, probably Fifth Amendment rights. Self-incrimination.
Oh,
is
yeah.
we are incriminated. So we self-incriminated by simply being trans.
There was a thing earlier that probably will come up. I may bring it up if it doesn't come up as part of discussions of a person who wants to remove our Fourth Amendment rights immediately.
Oh.
All of us, of course.
Oh.
Unreasonable search and seizure, is that the one?
Yeah, basically lock them all
Yeah.
up right now.
Yeah. Did you
Yeah, that
have that
was
tweet
me.
from that jackass? You can pull that up if you got it. Let's look at it.
I
What was it,
assume
John
the
Mag something.
jackass you're referring to. Oh,
And they want to take away state 10th Amendment rights if they want to give us a little bit of love every now and again. That's another thing. So basically rip up the Constitution. Which they
who needs
want to
a
do
Constitution
anyway,
right?
Yeah,
That sounds
which they want
woke.
to do anyway. For
Constitution
other reasons.
sounds fucking woke stuff.
entirely,
We talking
not
about that
entirely
for?
on us.
It's more like
whatever.
guidelines, really.
Yeah.
Like the people saying the Sermon on the Mount is woke. The
Uh-huh.
church people, it's like, really?
Mm. It is kind of woke, actually. I mean, we can.
Well, it is, but that's
Go
not a
there.
problem because it's fucking Jesus. And Jesus was like, that's if anybody can agree on one thing, is that Jesus was supposed to be like a good dude, right? Like he was supposed to be the hero of the story. Look what my roommates got me though. Isn't that
No, it's
pretty?
nice.
Aw,
It is.
Little
the
butterflies all over it.
butterflies.
And there's a leopard print one too. Thank you so much, guys.
So
my boys
don't know.
got this for me.
I don't know if you all remember Diana, the lavender lady, but I'm holding in my hand a piece of lavender, which is just blooming. Diana was a wonderful person, a really terrific person, and a pioneer. And so every year when my lavender blooms, I think of Diana, particularly since she passed. And she had a hard life, very hard life, especially at the end. So, hug your trans folks. Remember them. Lavender
while you
lady,
can.
I remember
Diana.
the lavender lady. I spend my afternoons with her sometimes. She'd be live when I'd be cooking dinner sometimes for the kids when they were younger, and I'd watch her like from about like 2018 or so. And she would, yeah. I miss Diana. Yeah, I guess we should cover some news, huh? We're here as a news
I
broadcast.
suppose.
What are we doing?
Yeah, I suppose we should.
Okay, so
Let's do it.
first things first, we got to talk
Whip it
about.
on me.
Well, I say first things first. Let's. We already pulled up Elena. So, second things second, I guess is what I should say. So I got pink news here. But the U.S. government orders 46 states to destroy trans education materials. And I guess I should give a trigger warning about what's coming up on the screen here, because it's that guy's face.
Yeah.
Right.
The U.S. government is reportedly demanding that almost every state in the U.S. remove sex education material referencing trans and non-binary people. What do y'all think?
I mean, they don't want sex education, period. But this is, it's frustrating.
Project 2025 unfolding before our eyes is what this is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it literally is. They're just going right down the checklist. And that's why this isn't surprising. I wish it were shocking, but it's just like, yep, that's on the list.
It's the frog. They're hoping that the frogs won't notice when it really does start to boil, because really, it's every single one of these issues that they bring up and couch it in terms of trans this, trans that, trans the other thing. It's just a camel's nose under the tent thing, because it gets people thinking, well, we shouldn't have sex education at all. We shouldn't have, guarantees against unreasonable searches and seizures at all. And, you just, you start with the trans people. It's the old Nazi rhyme, It started with. It's terrible.
I just noticed something just a little bit off topic, but like underneath Ember on the screen, it says TRA, which is what the freaking TERFs call us, even though we're just trans people.
I mean, existing publicly and saying we should have a right to defend our existence publicly, that makes us activists, apparently.
TRA, trans rights activist. Yeah, just the irony of that. I kind of like that. Serendipity is what they call that, right?
Yeah.
Like when they had that picture, was it Carolyn Levitt that had before in front of the white that said White House and her head was positioned just so it said whitewash, or it's like White House, Washington, or something like that, and her
Love it.
head was right in the way, and it said whitewash. I love that. It's like, there you go, serendipity. It makes it triggers something in your brain. The thing is the same thing in your brain that pareidolia. I'm just trying to be. I'm really like, as far as the climate with trans people go right now, I'm a little manic, to be frank. I'm just at a point where I'm just like, okay, you know what? All I can do at this point is just laugh and maybe lose it a little bit. But I'll lose it in private and I'll laugh with my bitches. So thank you guys so much for doing this show every week with me, no matter how bad things get, until the FBI kicks in our windows and shit. We're gonna keep doing this. So yeah, we've become the Alex Jones, apparently, because
Except they actually are coming for us. Oh
yeah, the fucking U.S. government has deemed us a conspiracy, right? And there's people calling for our let's pull that up right now. Actually, there you go. Calling for our seizure. Go ahead and read it for us, Ember.
Alrighty. So this is I assume it's a tweet. I don't go to that website anymore, but they get spread around. Joey Manorino, if he's a real person, he has a small following in the Tweeter land, but he doesn't seem to have any.
He's one of the flag people, though.
He's a flag people. So he says, Health and Human Services must immediately get involved and violate HIPAA laws to forward every transgender and transgender questioning person to local law enforcement for immediate detainment until we can figure out why they keep unaliving children in schools. More on that later. This is a matter of national security. They must be locked away and studied. Anyone enabling their transitions should be immediately expelled from the medical profession. This needs to be handled by the federal government with no mercy. They need to be treated as we treat terror organizations.
We're a terror organization, according to Joey.
Joey,
you know, nothing's more professional than Joey.
Joey, real man.
I think of Joey Lawrence. Whoa.
No, I hear showdowns, but that's okay. Yeah, well, what I'm about to say might shock people, but I think that Joey is wrong. Bad take, Joe. Sorry, man.
Well, they think that like Antifa is a terrorist organization too, because they don't understand that a demographic of people is not an organization, right? Like demographic of people who are against fascism are not an organization. A demographic of people who are transgender are not an organization.
I mean, hell, BLM actually is an organization, and they're not an organization in this way. Although the fact you mentioned TRA earlier makes me think of my Irish ancestry and how, when sufficiently oppressed, they formed the IRA. So not an organization, but maybe could be an organization.
That's a banking account.
Here's a question for you ladies. Should the Heritage Foundation be considered a terrorist organization?
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Directly causing violence. They're just strongly suggesting it and let other people do it.
Yeah, they actually are. They're not, yeah. It would be called abetting, I think, or accessory before the fact. An accessory before the fact. I think you want to get absolutely technical about it.
I don't know. And have you all seen these tweets where there's obviously it's I don't see I like Ember. I don't go on Twitter. The only reason I went on Twitter today was because I made I don't want to say a bet with myself, but I was talking about it in the Takish chat earlier. I said, that there's been a a school shooting when you open up Twitter and there's a picture of Elena McLaughlin holding her gun.
Mm.
And I had to see if that was true, so I went on Twitter. But I've seen the Libs of TikTok lady has made a list of alleged transgender school shooters.
Who aren't.
No,
But-
yeah, and she bolsters the list with what she calls the Tesla arsonist, which
one?
right, and like there was a whole ton of people protesting Teslas. People are still doing it. People are keying them and being nasty with them.
All of those
There we
people
go.
were all of those people with protesting and hitting up Teslas and out in front of it. They were all trans. Let's be real.
I mean,
They,
everybody's trans, according to the president. But
Look at this.
This is actual data on actual shootings, not protesting Teslas and whatever. This is mass shootings by gender status from 2018 to 2023, which is the most recent year for which data is publicly available. The media, of course, has tried to keep count, but whatever. This is the data set we have. And as you can see here, 2,826 shootings with 4 or more victims killed or injured happened, accredited to cis people. 3 for trans people. Now, Eli Ehrlich, who incidentally is momentarily receiving a PhD, so it'll be Dr. Eli soon, and congrats to them for that. Eli did the math. Out of the 3, trans people call us 1 to 2% of the population. 0.04% of mass shooters.
That means that we're significant as AMAP people. We are significantly less likely to be dangerous in this type of situation.
Right,
significantly.
We should account for 1 to 2%, and we don't. Not to pull this model minority bullshit. Like, we do not want any of that baggage. That is bullshit. But
let's put it in the perspective of, this is not an unusual thing, an unusual phenomenon. Let's put it in the perspective of Utah banning trans kids from kids' sport for one kid. One kid. How many? I reckon there are a hell of a lot more kids participating in scholastic athletics in the state of Utah than there are mass shooters. But they'll do it for one kid. Pass a whole goddamn
if they don't do it for that one kid,
fucking kid.
They don't want to commit the sin of empathy.
Oh yeah, that would be unforgivable. Apparently, it's worse than blasphemy, or so I hear.
I think,
but it's similar in a lot of states. West Virginia,
and that's like the 11th commandment. Now is "Thou shalt not commit thy sin of empathy for thy fellow man."
It's probably one of the cardinal ones too. There's now an 8th.
It's one. Remember when Moses had the 15 commandments? And he came down from, and when he dropped one of them, that was one of them, was the sin of empathy. Yeah. And someone,
which
I guess maybe that
with the Old Testament.
Yeah, I think that Hobby Lobby, with the help of the Heritage Foundation, maybe pieced that together, right?
Oh,
and
get your 10 Commandments model kit.
They got that 11th commandment that says, "Thou shalt not commit the sin of empathy for thy fellow man, or thy fellow animal." Let's be honest; these people don't care about the environment either, and they like the climate change stuff, like they mock the polar bear campaign and things like that. I really kind of wish this grid had put the darker colors just scattered randomly through here, so you could just see how, instead of stacking them here at the bottom like that. That's the only critique I have here. Just to
Yeah,
show,
that's why I like the
clustering
other
them.
chart better.
Yeah.
This one, but
Yeah.
Eli had the math. I did not count Eli's. I don't know that it's necessarily 2,800 and some versus 3, but whatever.
I don't think that, maybe someone can count it and find out for sure, but I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna accept it in good faith that they did properly represent the numbers. It's just that when they cluster them together like that at the bottom, it makes it seem like a bigger block than it is even. And if you separate each individual out among the like spatially, or even temporally, because you don't want to make it look like all of a sudden here at the very bottom it's all trans people either. So
yeah, well, I mean, graphic design notes notwithstanding, we knew this issue was going to be an issue. And as soon as they found one person they could even remotely scapegoat. Now, remember, this particular shooter is an extreme right-wing detransitioner, but never mind that. You'll never hear anything about that.
I don't know if detransitioner is the right word. Desister, I think, would probably be a better word for it, because they shirked. I don't know if they ever gave up the trans identity because they kept the name Robin, but they did shirk. I think it looked, from what I understand, their gender affirming care.
Robin is a very gender neutral name. I know plenty of Robins.
We don't know what went on with the paperwork.
Yeah,
that's why we're going to call them they at this point in time, because we don't know for sure how they identified.
However, they did.
This could be.
Say,
I mean, and I don't want to frame this as, oh, this is one of the detransitioner people that wants to make a point. I don't want to frame it that way, but it could be just as easily framed that way as it is that these people are trying to frame it as this was a trans activist because they were into
about the identity of this specific shooter, because this is ultimately a distraction from the fact that there have been 3,000 mass killings in the last few years. Holy shit. And also, more hate for trans people, but
can we because right now at this point in time the Transpositions has such a meager audience. And I appreciate everybody who shows up here, because like I said, the algorithm hates us. I don't know what we're doing wrong besides using the buzzwords that they hate. We're using the words that are going to get us flagged, but what else are we supposed to do? So I appreciate everybody who shows up because of notifications or because of posts on social media. Or the Discord server, whatever brings you here. You half a dozen people or you dozen people right now.
Or because of good referrals from friends of the channel. And you could be one of those good people too, I mean,
that's right.
I know
you're not meager in our eyes. You're very important to us. So,
And I know Kalasia is always dropping our links in the Takis live chat, so I appreciate you all. Definitely, I think that benefits us here. Right now, I know that the line is kind of directing towards that Jimmy Snow channel right now after Takis, which is
correct.
What are you gonna do? That's their own content. But I appreciate
the boss.
The direction that they sent it.
He owns the company,
Whereas we're hours later. But I appreciate Rochelle doing that. She's been a great supporter in a whole bunch of ways for this community. But friends, do liberally use the share button. Post about us on the various socials, not just here on YouTube, but the Facebooks, the Twitters, if you dare to go there, where whatever socials you may frequent. And the Discords. I know everyone posts everything in every Discord, and it gets repetitive after a minute, but it helps, and we appreciate it.
And I got to give a shout out to Jimmy Snow for allowing that to happen on our behalf, because he's pretty tight-fisted when it comes to that sort of thing. So we appreciate you, Jimmy, and thank you so much. We'll, so go subscribe to The Line if you haven't already.
And also, they're one
channel.
of their executive producers over there. I think she's executive producer, Arden Hart, friend of the channel, been on here over here the Transpositions multiple times. We appreciate you, Arden, and appreciate the line in general, and all the fine folks over there. Lux was on there today. My guy, one of my boys, Dr. Ben, is one of their regular hosts over there. So good people. Ember, let me see. So the tweet that you showed a minute ago, it's not just like, a conspiracy of some weirdo, right? About asking for our health records, our clinical records. The Justice Department demands details on transgender patients from at least one hospital. I don't know how else to present that. The Justice Department demands details.
Yeah.
About
what do you, on what basis? What is this about? What? I have so many questions. I guess that's why I'm in the news.
I'm turning into Alex Jones of the Alex Jones of the left here, because I'm thinking linking this all the way back to the Patriot Act, right?
Bree, they're turning the friggin' frog straight.
Oh my gosh. It's,
what will we do?
Where are our gay frogs? I wanted a gay frog invasion. Yeah. So, this is confirmed, right? That the Justice Department is requesting clinical information, HIPAA information about trans people, right? This is like if, during the during World War II, if the U.S. government had requested the clinical records of Japanese Americans, right? This is where we are right now.
Yeah, or during the Civil Rights Movement, requested medical records on the Freedom Riders. What are we doing?
Right. The way that the 60s is remembered is this civil rights movement for strongly for people of color, but also for feminism in general. Earlier, the 60s was a turbulent time, and then the 80s and maybe early 90s up to the Matthew Shepard situation for gay rights. This is the era of the where trans people are in the limelight, and I'm so freaking concerned who's going to be our Matthew Shepard.
I feel like we've already passed that point, and the public just doesn't care. I mean, there was
Brianna J.
Sam Nordquist. There's been so many.
You should ask the old lady in the room about the 60s, because the entire decade, which I remember, by the way, I grew up in that decade. Graduated from high school in 1971. So I do recall, I graduated from high school before women actually had the right to have their own credit cards. So, the entire decade, this was a long thing. But one thing about the 60s and trans people that is not well recognized, it was quite positive. If you really think about it, I mean, Jan Morris, when did she publish that book? her book about her transition, her memoir. It was in, I believe she was on like the Dick Cavett show in maybe 69 and 1969, the January, February, I think, issue of Life magazine. Yes, Life magazine. There was a magazine called Life magazine. It cost $0.25. And there's a joke about that. But anyway,
1974.
they had, okay. So Life magazine, again, it's a continuum. Life magazine published in the January, February issue a 4-page photograph, 4 or 6-page photographic spread of several trans folk, trans women. And it was really quite, we're just really quite ordinary people. They had one woman who was in a wedding gown, and one woman whose best her best life was going bowling with the girls, and it was all like, they're really actually quite ordinary people, and it's really, speaking from the long view, from a long perspective, it's amazing to me that this timeline has gone so far off the rails for folks like us, because all of that sort of thing gave me hope, and that's why when I encounter trans folk today who don't have those memories, I can only just say, damn, I'm so sorry that you're having to deal with all of this stuff along with the whole process of transition itself. It's hard. I don't think people realize just how hard it is. And for people to blithely think that people do this for a lark, it's insane. It's insane. My joke to a friend of mine who I actually had a drink with last night, older gentleman, he's one of my huge supporters. He's in his late 80s and was a huge ally. And I remember saying to Dave, I said, Dave, I'm not doing this in order to make an Olympic bid in the Yingling class, which was the women's keelboat at the time. I mean, it's just, no, this is not something people do for fun. People do it to live. Most people on an individual basis get that. And I just wish that some of those people would speak up and say that. Sorry.
And
thanks for letting me ramble.
Yeah,
no, you're good.
You're absolutely correct. In a world where we're being actively silenced by corporate media and the powers in authority and shit, the only voice is the voice of all the people. We need to, not just us, but our allies, our friends, our acquaintances, or even people on the fence. We're just like, maybe we shouldn't be, rounding up an entire group of people. Speaking up is all we've got to work with.
Just on principle, like maybe it's a bad idea to round up any group of people because of one particular characteristic. It's maybe a bad idea.
Hasn't gone well in history, but I mean, that's why we've been learning history, I suppose.
And I think that this rolls right into that.
Yay!
Because again, this isn't just some like fringe people saying, "Hey, let's round up the trans and violate their human rights and their HIPAA and everything." GOP rep calls for LGBTQ plus activists to be classified as terrorist. So this is somebody who's actually like in office.
Yeah,
GOP rep from Montana, which I wonder what Zoe Zephyr has to say about that.
I was just gonna say Montana has 3 state reps who are LGBTQ, 2 trans people,
Right.
and I believe the third person is an open lesbian. And there may
Who
be
is this
more
guy?
that I know about.
Is Lucas Schubert. I don't know. I imagine this is probably the last we're going to hear about Lucas. Imagine Lucas is going to return to the Transpositions weekly at some point in the future. Just, I have a feeling because he looks like what he looks like is like what is it, an NIFB guy, like the new fundamental.
Oh yeah, he's in the Wilson cult. I'll bet a nickel.
Yeah, he's got the vibe, the chalkboard behind him, the tie and the collar, like he's used to speaking in front of a group of churchgoers, right? That's just the vibe I get. Maybe I'm wrong about it, but if this guy turns out to be a
Who can say?
former youth pastor,
I was just thinking that.
I'm not gonna say I told you so, but that's the vibe, right? Youth pastor vibes. But he said, I guess he posted it under, of course he did, under libs of TikTok nonsense. Of course he did. And they want to blame the LGBTQ plus about this. They don't want to blame the fact that this person was a white supremacist. They don't want to blame the fact that this person was a anti-Semite, right? They don't want to blame the fact that this person was MAGA, or at least they supported a MAGA. They supported a MAGA candidate. I don't want to say. I mean, people will support MAGA candidates that aren't like actually in the MAGA cult just because they believe propaganda. You don't have to be in the cult to believe the propaganda.
It's true.
But they're just spinning a web to villainize us, to take this minority group. This is how fascism rises. They rally a demographic, a large demographic against the smallest minority they can find, and scapegoat them for everything wrong with the world. And then
quick, easy, simple answers.
And then they convince the people that giving up their rights are the only way to ensure that the trans threat doesn't boil over into their own homes and their own neighborhoods.
Oh, and he's terrified of that. So quick rundown on Mr. Lucas. If he looks like a child to you, it's because he is. He is currently a student at a community college. He's 20 years old. He got elected in this past election. He rode the Trump train to victory and converted to Catholicism just before the election, incidentally. I'm sure that has nothing to do with anything. But yeah, he's a trad cath, and he's proposed 2 bills, at least up until springtime. One of them was to extend wolf hunting season, and that failed. And the other bill, the only other bill, was HB 754, which would have required the emergency removal of a child who is transitioning with the support of their parent, considering them in immediate or apparent danger. And that bill failed by just under 3/4.
Yeah, well, but he gets, here's the thing about this sort of thing. He knows that if he spouts this garbage, he's gonna get attention, and he got attention. And that one of the things that bothers me about this is, like, where are the stories about us just living our lives? I mean, we try to present them here. These news organizations repeat and repeat, lather, rinse, repeat. They keep doing this, or they're going to feature these stories. And so what gets stuck in people's heads? That story, it may be full of shit, but they never debunk it. It's like the New York Times does this all the damn time. They ran this whole thing. Who's the woman that was a whistleblower at St. Louis Children's Hospital and all of this stuff? And the New York Times ran that story. It was all bullshit, but they ran that story. They ran a whole week, couple of weeks, a whole month worth of stories, and ultimately what winds up happening is children's hospitals wind up getting bomb threats. This isn't cool. None of it's cool. It sucks.
Yeah. The same story also was Barry Weiss's big break as a journalist.
There you go.
Exactly. So now the free press is a thing, which is an ironic name, but never mind that.
Yeah.
It makes fuck tons of money to be hateful to the target du jour, and no one stops them because we don't actually care about human rights in this country. And apparently they either, but it's a whole other issue.
In the case of these media organizations, it sells soap. It sells the product, whether it's the newsprint or the YouTube channel or the this or the that. It just sells. All of this stuff is sensationalist bullshit. I could call it yellow journalism, but I would call it more of a shade of brown, as in number 2 instead of number 1.
Outhouse paper journalism.
Yeah.
There's a level of irony with the libs of TikTok thing, because they're talking about trans people like they're terrorists, when literally she's probably Chaya Rychek is responsible for more bomb threats. I think it was in 2023 or whatever.
Yes.
Than anybody else.
Yeah.
So she literally is responsible for actual terrorism. Trying to spin a narrative.
NBC News reported they found 33 instances in 2024. Specifically coming from libs of TikTok.
Right. Children's hospitals, schools, libraries, private citizens. So it's a thing.
Yeah, that's just happening. NBC tends to be a little conservative about, ironically, conservative influence. There have been so many incidents, like the assassination of sitting politicians in the Midwest earlier this year. Obviously politically motivated, obviously fired up by right-wing media, but who gets the credit? Is it libs of TikTok? Is it Matt Walsh? Do they have to share the point? Where do you assign the blame? So cases like that don't get counted in those kinds of tallies.
Yeah, and wrapping up our stories here, I actually...
But wait, there's more.
Have just this. We knew it was going to happen. South Carolina back in the news.
Of
course they are. Supreme Court to let it enforce trans bathroom ban, and you know what this means? Setting a national precedent on the Supreme Court level to allow bathroom bans. Now, if any other state wants to institute a bathroom ban, all they have to do is appeal to this ruling, and the Supreme Court will be like, yeah, we already heard this proposition, and we support the state's rights to enforce it.
It could be even worse than that. I mean, remember how in cases like Brown versus Board of Education, the Supreme Court not only sided with one of the two petitioners, but went further to say this ought to be applied federally. It's a requirement based on existing federal law. And this Supreme Court could very easily say that based on current executive orders or whatever, not only are states free to enforce these bans, but they're required to institute and enforce a ban if they don't have or whatever. Like it could go so much worse than just South Carolina, depending on how crazy Alito and Thomas want to move things.
Yeah. How crazy indeed. All right. So after good news, I do have just a little bit of sports. I'm not a sportscaster by any means. I'm not a sports follower, a sports understander. But I do appreciate inclusion in society. So yeah, I don't have to enjoy sports to understand that it's important to be able to participate in them. So I'll be bringing you a little bit of sports. I think Steph had a couple of things about sports too. So after good news, we're going to be back wrapping up with that. But Ember, what are we looking at?
Yeah, mostly I want to brag about my yachting successes. But
yeah, absolutely. We love hearing your exploits, Steph.
Sailing the boats and things.
Yeah. All right, Ember, what are we looking for in
I have no idea.
It's been a minute, huh?
I did the record. I'm halfway through next week's production already.
Okay, well, let's just jump right into it and find out live what's going on. What's going on? And let me see. I have it here. Yeah. Here's the good news. Surprise good news.
All right.
Woo!
Woohoo! Let's do it.
Good news, everyone! Tonight, a trans video game review. And we'll wrap up Trans History Month with more tales from the community. Good news starts right now! Welcome to the Trans Trail, a retro video game by Fallon Fox, done in the style of Oregon Trail. And not just for nostalgia, but a very good reason, because the objective of this game is to not die for 5 years. As a person whose mantra basically is try not to die, this struck me as interesting. Also, I'm a big nerd for retro video games, but this one, oh goodness, it, like the original Oregon Trail, there's a whole lot of ways to die. And we're going to try our best not to. Let's check it out. So we begin with an opening screen, general store. We've got $2,000 to try to survive our 5 years. What can we buy? We can buy pepper spray to help defend against attackers in violent situations. We can get self-defense classes, training to increase survival during violent encounters. Yeah, violence comes up kind of a lot when you're a trans person. Ask me how I know. You can get 1 year of hormone supply. It only gives you 12 months of hormone access, but it'll help increase your progress. You can get a 5-pack of therapy sessions, which could, it restores mental health when feeling depressed. Mental health is a statistic. It's one of your stats you have to keep an eye on over the course of the game. And with good reason, because mental health decline is one of the chief ways that trans people lose the game, so to speak. You could get legal aid membership to help fight job and housing discrimination, because that's a real thing in the United States. Ask me how I know. You can have emergency fund savings to help prevent homelessness by covering unexpected expenses. That hugely useful. There's always something that comes up, and things can be a little unstable, especially when you're dealing with both job and housing insecurity. Voice training to help improve job prospects and reduce dysphoria. Hugely useful if you can get it. You can voice train on your own, to be clear, but this is for the purposes of the game. Support group membership increases social support by connecting with peers. Again, hugely useful. Feeling alone and isolated is another one of the big problems. It decreases our mental health. And surgery fund, because in the United States, access to necessary life-saving medical care often is whoever can afford it, and tough luck to the rest. So, what should we get? $2,000. Cool. We can't afford everything. What do we need? Well, we're definitely gonna need the legal aid, and therapy sessions could literally save our lives. We need hormones, and self-defense classes might come in very, very useful. That drops us to $1,100. So let's put some away for surgery. That leaves us with $100. What can we get? Voice training. Boom, voice training. There and $0. You can't even buy the minimum of what you need for 1 year, which is kind of accurate. All right, let's see how we do. Now, like Oregon Trail, what happens each month is randomly generated. First month, we're at 100 health, 100 mental health, 0% transition progress, and we've got $200. But we do have our lovely inventory up there. Okay, a local gender clinic closes due to restrictive legislation, reducing your access to care. Awesome! Our options are travel to another state, use unsafe black market options, or go on without professional care for now. And that's a real problem. That's a thing that people in many, many states have to face in the United States. Boop, no medical care for you. What do? Black market, no care, go to another state. What do you do? Well, since our object is to survive and hopefully transition, as an added goal, I suppose, let's travel to another state for care. You secure treatment elsewhere at greater expense and emotional cost. And our mental health has decreased, and our money is now negative $700. Holy shit. We're up to negative $500, but we have 5% transition progress, and we gained a point back in mental health. A religious organization denies you services because you are trans. Of course they do. What a very Christian thing to do. So, our options: file a discrimination complaint, boycott and tell your friends, or just accept it quietly. This is a bit of a tricky one because religious organizations aren't covered by a lot of the same rules that other nonprofits are, or other businesses are, for example. They have a lot of wiggle room for religious exemptions if they can demonstrate that their religion actually demands a certain practice, and they're not just using their religion as a shield for their bigotry. It'll be different for everybody. Me personally, I'm feeling litigious today, so let's file a discrimination complaint. The process is draining and costs money. Because of course it does. You can't do anything with the legal system unless you pay to play. Because this is the United States, baby. Yay, capitalism! So our mental health has gone down, and we have less money. We're even more negative money on month number 2. This is amazing. Month 3, we're recovering some financially. We've gained a point back in mental health. You develop complications after surgery that need follow-up care. Fuck. This is just a regular surgery, because in addition to transitioning, you have to live regular life also side by side, and sometimes things happen, like you need a surgery for regular reasons. Ask me how I know. And things come up. So what do? Seek medical care or wait it out and hope it improves? Considering our money situation, I would love to use the surgery fund for this, because it's not transition surgery, but it's surgery related, but I don't think the game will let me. So I'm gonna say wait it out and hope it improves. because unfortunately that's what I have to do for a lot of medical things in my life. Personally speaking, you should not do this. It is unsafe, but that's what I'm going to do for the purposes of this game. Your condition worsens and you regret delaying care, and our health dropped to 49, which is super relatable. But this isn't even a trans person thing. It's a thing trans people deal with on top of everything else. It's a poor person thing, because anybody could be subject to that exact situation and have the exact same outcome. You interview for a job and must decide whether to disclose your trans identity. This is another one of those very, very personal things, because you don't have to disclose. No one is entitled to your medical information. Even if you go see a new doctor, they need your permission to access your past medical files. Now, you probably want your doctor to know your health information so they can take care of you properly, but they're not entitled to it. No one is entitled to your medical information. If you choose to disclose, do so for your reasons, not because you feel like you have to. So in this case, disclose your identity up front or keep it private. Now, there are consequences either way. If you disclose up front, you may not get the job because employment discrimination. But if you keep it private, it may come out later and you could end up with a lot of various kinds of trouble. For the purposes of this game, I'm going to say keep it private because it is nobody's business. You get the job, but constantly fear being outed. Mental health goes down because even though discrimination against trans people is technically prohibited by constitutional law and Supreme Court rulings, that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Many states, including mine, have laws that specifically enumerate transgender status, identity, and so forth as protected characteristics. But it still happens. Ask me how I know. Okay, month 5. Our money is feeling a little better now. We're up to $325. Our mental health is ticking up, but our regular health is still stuck at 49. You must travel to see a gender specialist out of state. Of course we do. Fly and stay in a hotel? Ha, money bags. Drive and stay with friends, or cancel the appointment. So yeah, let's do it the cheap way. Drive and stay with friends. And it wasn't that cheap. We're in the negative again. Awesome. You save money, but the long drive is tiring. And our mental health went down too. Oh, goodness. Okay, month 6. 6 months. Our money's back into the positive, barely. Things are not looking great. A police officer stops you without cause and questions your gender. Again, this is a thing that happens. We've reported on it in this show. So what do? Comply with it and hope it ends quickly, ask why you were stopped, or record the interaction. Oh boy, this is going to have negative consequences no matter what we do, as is often the case in real-life situations. I would record the interaction no matter what else happens, because then there's a record of the interaction. Recording provides documentation, but heightens the tensions. Of course it does. And our mental health is down to 28. But we're still surviving. Month 7. Your neighbor sets fire to a pride flag outside your home. Should we confront them and call the authorities? I mean, call the authorities. Yeah, that person is setting fire to things. Ignore it and replace the flag, or take down the flag and stay silent. And this is similar to the first thing, right? Like, do we just let them get away with it? Do we let them get away with it in a different way by just replacing the flag? Or do we take direct action and put ourselves at risk for it? For this game, I'm going to stick with my litigious course and call the authorities. But I know the confrontation is gonna suck. The confrontation is scary and exhausting. Of course, and our mental health is down to 12. Month 18, you're offered an earlier gender-affirming surgery date if you pay out of pocket. This could be expensive. We do have some money, but we also have our surgery fund. So let's pay the additional cost now and see what happens. You pay extra, have the surgery earlier, and feel relieved. We didn't use the surgery fund for some reason, and we're at negative $975, but our transition progress went up to 25%. Hooray! Oh, but Mr. Man here is here to like ruin our day. So I guess we were too much in the negative. Which is unfortunate because we actually had a surgery fund. Oh goodness. Okay, so this whole thing is really long, so I'm going to put a few highlights into the weekly broadcast, and I'll put the whole thing up on the backlog channel, Transpositive News. If you want to watch, it'll be over there. The game itself, the Trans Trail, the web address is really long and not friendly to remembering. It's 68991616 F0BED07833531554F hyphen grand hyphen KLEPON hyphen 165E52 dot NETLIFY.APP. Good luck with that. So I have linked to it on my website, betterthanember.com, under the resources tab. At the bottom of additional trans resources, you can find the Trans Trail. For your convenience, if you would like to play, see if you can do better than me, see if you can make it all 60 months. And good luck! You might find a lot of relatable things in it. And if you're not a trans person, even though it's a video game version of things, it might still help you gain some perspective on what it feels like to be one of us.
One of the earliest transgender millionaires ever took his pet leopard on his private planes and almost single-handedly funded the early gay and trans liberation movements in America. You need to meet Reed Erickson, a philanthropist, 3-time divorcee, fugitive, and the subject of this week's Queer History. Reed was born in 1917 and started using the name Eric only around his circle of lesbian friends while attending the Philadelphia High School for Girls. He was an excellent student, eventually becoming the first person assigned female at birth to graduate from LSU's School of Engineering. Erickson's father passed away in 1962, and Reed finally began to live as his authentic self, beginning his gender transition in 1963 with Dr. Harry Benjamin. In 1964, Reed founded the Erickson Educational Foundation, one of the world's first organizations specifically for trans rights. Prior to the Stonewall riots, the EEF was the only grant provider specifically for LGBTQ+ issues. The foundation focused on providing medical funding for and public education on transgender people. It funded early studies of gender transitioning at Stanford and Johns Hopkins University, and financed what would later become the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. Erickson knew that awareness of trans people was extremely limited, and acceptance could only be achieved by a sense of familiarity and recognition via education. The foundation produced short films, radio pieces, and literature that they presented at church groups, colleges, and professional meetings. He also wanted to push the boundaries of science beyond what humans thought was possible at this time, sometimes via the use of hallucinogenics and other substances, which would eventually become a huge problem for him down the line. Reed was one of the earliest and the most significant donor to the first national organization furthering gay rights in the U.S., One Inc. However, Erickson had a huge public falling out with him after a property dispute turned ugly. He underwent sexual reassignment surgeries in 1965 and finally found peace within his body, but he didn't become complacent. He always used his influence and riches to help other trans people access the care they needed. I will say most of the people who were able to access this care were middle to upper class white people who experienced gender dysphoria in almost the exact same symptomatic way that Erickson did, which left a lot of people out in the cold, but still, this was a remarkable feat. Erickson married Daisy Lewis in 1963, divorced her in 1964, married Eileen Ashton in 1965, with whom he had 2 children. He moved to Mexico in 1973 to a mansion Reed nicknamed the Lovejoy Palace. They divorced the next year. This was when Reed started to personally experiment with drugs, leading to a massive substance abuse issue in a very short time, which took a toll on his mental and physical health, ruining a lot of his relationships. The foundation was even dissolved in 1975 because of internal disputes. In 1977, he married a woman named Eva, and they moved to California to be closer to Erickson's children. Their marriage fell apart sometime between 1983 and 1985. In 1983, he returned to Mexico as a fugitive on drug charges. Oh, and about the leopard, his name was Henry, and he liked to play with other house cats. Reed took him on walks around their Baton Rouge neighborhood, much to the neighbors' shock. It's unclear when and how he acquired Henry, but they were apparently best friends, and Henry never ate him. So, good for them? He married for one final time in 1987, but his drug addiction had ruined his health. Reed's daughter Monica was appointed as his conservator, and Erickson passed away in 1992 at the age of 74. Sociologist Aaron H. Dever once wrote that Erikson shaped almost every aspect of work being done in the 1960s and 70s in the field of gender affirmation in the US. Reed Erikson is the reason transgender folks are so widely recognized in the US and abroad. He was an extraordinarily complicated man whose privilege, pocketbook, and heart put us in the place we are today, and his work is not done. As of 2017, only 28 cents out of every $100 awarded by foundations goes to LGBTQ+ issues. So let's pick up his torch. I love you. I'll see you next week.
We've only got a few days left here on TikTok, which means I have neither the time nor the desire to be polite about this. So let's do the thing that you should have done before leaving this brainless comment and learn some science. This is an introductory biology textbook called Campbell Biology Concepts and Connections, and it is the newest edition. This is the kind of textbook used in freshman level intro to bio for non-majors classes, or even advanced high school students. This is literally basic biology. And here in chapter 9, we get this section over sex chromosomes and differentiation. The biochemical, physiological, and anatomical features associated with males and females are turning out to be more complex than previously realized, with many genes involved in their development. We now know that sex is not a binary state with just two defined outcomes. Because of the complexity of the genes and proteins involved in sex determination, many variations exist. Some individuals are born with intermediate sexual or intersex characteristics, or even with anatomical features that do not match an individual's sense of their own gender, known as transgender individuals. Sex determination is an active area of research that should yield more sophisticated results in years to come. And down here on the bottom of the page, we even get a little pop quiz. Does the development of ovaries necessarily mean that a human has two X chromosomes? No! But again, that's just basic biology. We need something a little bit more advanced to match your staggering intellect. So let's take a look at this genetics textbook. In fact, this is the same brand of genetics textbook that I used to get my first biology degree. Only this one is the 7th edition, which is actually a newer edition than the one that I use. So this is even better than my undergrad training. Up here you can see they are also talking about intersex people, in this case someone who is genetically female and phenotypically male, but that's not the point of this video. The point here is this paragraph. Gender is not the same as sex. Biological sex refers to the anatomical and physiological phenotype of an individual. Gender is a category assigned by the individual or others based on behavioral and cultural practices. One's gender need not coincide with one's biological sex. Now, if there's one thing that I know about people who use laughing emojis in place of an argument, is that they really need things spelled out for them. So let's look at just one more source, this time the World Health Organization's page on gender and health. Gender refers to the characteristics of women, men, girls, and boys that are socially constructed. This includes norms, behaviors, and roles associated with being a woman, man, girl, or boy, as well as relationships with each other. As a social construct, gender varies from society to society and can change over time. Gender interacts with, but is different from sex, which refers to the different biological and physiological characteristics of males, females, and intersex persons, such as chromosomes, hormones, and reproductive organs. You know, the exact thing that I was saying on the video where you left this shitty comment. So when you say that gender is the same thing as sex, and that there isn't a single person on the planet who believes that gender is a social construct, what you actually mean is, you believe those things, and so you assume that all the biologists and doctors in the world are all just wrong. Because if there's one thing that unites transphobes, flat earthers, anti-vaxxers, creationists, and every other kind of science denier, it's that they cannot tell the difference between their own ignorance and scientific evidence. I'll be putting out a long-form video over on this platform by the end of this month about sex, gender, why they're different, and why neither is binary, so please make sure that you're subscribed over here, especially with TikTok going down the drain. This is where I put in my best work. I'll see you over there.
Trans fact of the day. The bathroom predator myth is made up. Of course it is. How absurd to think people would go through years of treatment, change all their government documents, deal with endless strings of doctors, not to mention hate from the public, among other things, just to walk into a room that nobody is stopping them from entering in the first place. It's pure, irrational fear-mongering, and it only persists because fear makes people act irrationally. But you all know it's nonsense propaganda. What you might not know is that a known hate group confessed to making it up. In 2018, Massachusetts voters overwhelmingly opted to keep in place an existing civil rights law that protected citizens from discrimination, including trans people. On November 9th of that year, an organization called Mass Resistance, identified as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center, published an article decrying the right's failures to legalize hate against trans people, as well as to prevent gay marriage from becoming legal, and rounded it out with this gem of a statement. Quote, "Our side concocted the bathroom safety male predator argument as a way to avoid an uncomfortable battle over LGBT ideology and still fire up people's emotion." They went on to lament that right-wing hate groups and their wealthy donors would keep on losing the battle to control everyone's lives and to hurt people without consequences unless they're willing to change their tactics. In short order, they'd pivot to pretending trans people in sports was somehow the end of the world, but that's another fact for another day. For right now, just be aware that the hate groups themselves admit this bathroom issue is fabricated entirely and have said so publicly, and we've known that for years. Follow for more.
The first two documented cases of teens receiving gender-affirming care in the United Kingdom are brothers Mark and David Farrow in the 1930s. Welcome back to Yesterqueers. My name's Amanda, and I'm a public historian of queer history. Mark and David were born in 1922 and 1924, respectively, and assigned female at birth. They grew up in the seaside town of Great Yarmouth in a family of 5 children. Their father, George, was a bookseller, and their mother, Ellen, was a homemaker. By all accounts, they had a happy and unremarkable childhood. The brothers each transitioned socially when they were about 13. The story that was told about them in the newspapers is that Mark and David's voices dropped when they entered puberty, leaving them, quote, withdrawn and bewildered. Now, it is entirely possible that Mark and David were intersex and that puberty enhanced some of their more masculine physical features. However, being intersex was also a requirement for accessing gender-affirming care in England in the 1930s, so this could also just be a plausible cover story. Unfortunately, the 2,000-word piece that Mark wrote about his childhood and transition has been lost to time, so we'll never know for sure. What we do know for sure is that Mark and David were raised and socialized as girls, and by the time they were 13, they were able to clearly articulate that they were and always had been boys. The Farrow family supported Mark and David completely, but their classmates were a little more, let's say, skeptical. So much so that Mark actually left school for about a year and a half after he started his transition. George and Ellen thought that a new environment would make their transitions easier. So, thanks to the generosity of a neighbor who paid travel, living, and medical expenses, Mark and David were sent to art school in Maidstone, which was 150 miles away. And it was also only about 35 miles away from London, where they would have access to what we would now call gender-affirming care. Mark started hormone therapy when he was 17, and David started a year later when he was about 16. There's also a note in this Daily Mirror article that says Mark underwent surgery at a London hospital as part of his transition, but we don't have any more details. This article is part of the nationwide splash that Mark and David made when they returned to Great Yarmouth as brothers. And what's interesting about all of this coverage is that it is very positive. Their transition is framed as an example of groundbreaking modern medicine, and all of the quotes from neighbors are about how much they admire the boys' courage. Coverage of the Farrow brothers' return to Great Yarmouth ended abruptly, however, because the United Kingdom entered World War II just a week later. Mark and David Farrow both went on to live long and happy lives. Mark and his trademark pipe eventually settled in Leicester, where he worked as a writer and an artist, and where he served for many years on the Leicester Marriage Guidance Council. He himself was happily married to a woman named Edna for almost 50 years, and they died 6 months apart in 1991. David, on the other hand, stayed in Great Yarmouth and became a beloved elder of the community. He followed in his father's footsteps and became a bookseller, eventually opening a store near the town center that stocked 30,000 titles. Though he couldn't find information about a spouse, he did have a daughter named Jan. He died in 2006 at the age of 82. That's it for today. As always, more information, including sources and further reading, is available in the usual place.
But I happen to believe that there are actual superheroes in real life who walk among us. And these superheroes are called trans people. Because just like superheroes, trans people are born with something special and magical about them, and they often have to hide what's special and magical about them from other people. Like superheroes, they grow up in a society that doesn't understand them, that makes them the other, and often hates them. Like superheroes, trans people just want the world to be a safer place, and they believe we should protect each other and live our lives in peace. Like superheroes, evil billionaires want to get rid of trans people for no reason whatsoever. And just like superheroes, Trans people are not new. They've been around forever and they're not going anywhere, no matter how much this administration tries to make you fear them.
You may know Marsha P. Johnson as the black trans woman who threw the first brick or shot glass or punch at the Stonewall riots, but that's not her real story, which is why today's Queer History is the biography of Marsha P. Marsha was born to a religious family in New Jersey in 1945 and began wearing dresses at only 5 years old. However, she had to stop due to bullying and even violence by her peers. But the second she graduated from high school, she took $15 and a single bag of clothes and moved to New York City, where she changed her name to Marsha P. Johnson, with the P standing for Pay It No Mind. Here she was finally able to present as she always had dreamed, wearing fun, colorful clothing and often wearing a flower crown. Like many trans people, Marsha struggled to find employment and turned to sex work to make ends meet. She faced violence at the hands of her clients and police and even survived being shot. She was also homeless, something that would influence her work for the rest of her life. Marsha eventually began waitressing and doing drag performances, which quickly improved her life. This is where she met 11-year-old Sylvia Rivera, a Puerto Rican trans girl who quickly became Marsha's best friend. 6 years after their meeting on June 28, 1969, Marsha and Sylvia arrived at the Stonewall Inn at about 2 a.m. And here's a clip of Marsha's recollection of the evening.
I was uptown. I didn't get downtown until about 2 o'clock, because when I got downtown, the place was already on fire and it was a raid already.
After a lifetime of brutality and unkindness, Marsha and other trans folks felt they had nothing more to lose and let their anger take over. Marsha herself said that she'd spent 10 years in jail just for wearing makeup on 42nd Street, so fighting the cops wasn't a terrible thing to do. The days following the Stonewall uprising were full of protests, with many planned by Marsha and Sylvia themselves. The very first gay pride parade took place in New York in 1970, and Marsha was initially part of the planning committee, along with the Gay Liberation Front and the Gay Activist Alliance, but she denounced their work because it was mostly focused on white gay people, leaving out trans people of color. The same year, 1970, Marsha and Sylvia started STAR, the Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, quote, an organization dedicated to sheltering young transgender individuals who were shunned by their families. Throughout the 1970s, Marsha rose to prominence within the LGBTQ+ community. She performed with the drag group The Hot Peaches, and she was featured in an Andy Warhol print series called Ladies and Gentlemen. Marsha's activism knew no bounds, and in one interview she said, "As long as gay people don't have their rights all across America, there is no reason for celebration." Because of her work, Marsha rode in the lead car of the 1980 Gay Pride Parade.
You never completely have your rights. One person chose to all have your rights.
However, the 1970s were also a very difficult time for Marsha personally. She experienced several mental health crises leading to hospitalization, and she was forced to return to sex work, as advocacy is not a particularly profitable lifestyle. In 1990, Marsha was diagnosed with HIV, which she turned into yet another advocacy opportunity, stating how the world should not be afraid of her community because of this disease.
And if I die, I hope nobody cries either. I hope you stand up and dance, party, and have a good time.
Marsha was found dead in the Hudson River July 6, 1992. Police ruled it a suicide, but her friends suspected foul play, as 1992 was the worst year for queer violence on record up to that point. Hundreds of people showed up to Marsha's funeral, which was held at a church, as she remained religious for the entirety of her life. So many people came to celebrate the beautiful life of this woman that they had to stand out on the sidewalk to celebrate the passing of this titan in our community. She has since been memorialized in many ways, but the best tribute that you and I can give to Marsha is to continue the work that she began. For the rest of our lives, and especially for the next 4 years, we must pay it no mind and continue to fight for the liberation and protection of trans folks of color in our community. I love you. Have a beautiful day.
If you enjoy content like this, be sure to subscribe. Transpositions Weekly is the first and only weekly trans news show in the universe, and we need your support to keep this show going. Contribute at patreon.com/thetranspositions. Spread the word all over social media to let people know we're here, and tell us what stories matter to you by joining the community on Discord. Discord, of course, is where the memes live, and our meme of the week was posted by Bumblebee. And if you are an irresistible creature who stalks the night, inspiring terror in the hearts of mortals, join us. Also, if you have good news concerning trans people you'd like to see reported on, you can tell us about that in the Discord as well. For the Transpositions, I've been Ember Belrad.
just like Thursday, the boat in trouble. This time, Nomura was able to wriggle off the hook with 1:30 to go, and now they hold a favored position. We're not going to have it. Stay close to each other. Game here is to get up to full speed. Kayard makes his move first, and he'll be going faster when the gun goes off. Go down below the line. 20. 17. 14. 13. 4, 3, 2, 1, done. Another clean start and another good job by Dellenbaugh.
Yeah, that was another clean start. Another good job by Dellenbaugh. That would be Dave Dellenbaugh. That was the start of the last match of the 1992 America's Cup race, which was won by America Cubed, and I was involved in not the racing, but the maintenance of the sales for that program. Wasn't involved at a particularly top level. My business partner was actually running the sail repair shop in San Diego at the time. And, it's funny. I forgive me, but I'll understand if the viewers drop after this, but this is just sort of a personal recollection of a life as a trans woman in sport, at somewhat exalted levels in my sport, in light of the fact that this coming weekend I am competing in an event that's been an annual event since 1986. I think it's 1986. Anyway, and it's the culmination of our season championship, but it also attracts competitors from all over the country and all over the world. And it's odd for me to look at the perpetual trophies for the event and see my dead name, and also see my name. It's it's kind of a weird. It's a weird place to be as a person who's managed a negotiated existence over the course of time in a very weird and changing world. I'm appalled by how the world is changing. We talked about that earlier on the show. But damn it, I'm psyched. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go and compete in this event again. Maybe when I think I'll have been involved in 20 programs over the course of the years. That is done darn well. In fact, won the season championship in the local fleet, won this particular event maybe 5 times. But darn it, just to use the Stuart Smalley thing, darn it, I'm glad about that. I'm glad that, when we talk about communities, I'm glad that community, mostly made up of old rich white guys, was able to accept me over time. It wasn't easy. transitioning. I referred earlier to my friend Dave, who was like, golly, what's going on with you, when I was transitioning, and then came to accept it. And we're still good friends. This can happen. This is a future. I thought it would get better from there. I thought the trajectory was good. But I hold on to the hope that this is a future that can happen for all of the people, my co-hosts, all of them. I hope this is a future that is available to them and available to me in my golden years. But I hope that you all, anybody who's watching this program, will think, isn't it cool that people can be people and be their best selves? I've had more fun, I've derived more enjoyment out of competing as myself over the course of the past 27 years than I ever did prior to. And I became a better sailor. I became better at my craft because I could concentrate on the game. Without worrying about how awful it felt to be playing the game under false pretenses. And that's kind of an odd flip, because people will tell me now that I'm competing under false pretenses. But I will tell you something from a personal perspective: the absolute reverse is true. I wasn't that good. I wasn't that sharp. I wasn't that focused. I wasn't that concentrated on on doing the things that needed to be done. I've done videos on exactly how sailing is a particularly equipment dependent sport. It's a very, very cerebral sport. It's really hard game to play. I've often said it's like playing chess on a board that moves. You never know where your square is. Maybe checkers is a better example. You never know which row is closer to the top. If you visualize a checkerboard like that's square like this, and the goal is not to get to the top row, but to get to the top square on a diagonal. That's what sailing is like. And it takes a lot of thinking. Like, where are these people? Are they on this rung? Because the board swings like this as the wind shifts. And this is where the top mark is, and that's where the bottom mark is. And it keeps going like that. It's a hard game to play. And I was never as good at playing the game. I was more physically capable before transition, but mentally I was a wreck. And I think that actually, from an athlete's perspective, from a competitor's perspective, I think that that's something that people don't appreciate. If you do get better in your sport, um, so much of sport is up here, as well as being in your physical capabilities. I often say that transition is like learning how to dance again, and also learning how to exist and live within your own self. It's like you're putting on a really so much more comfortable set of on a way more comfortable skin suit. Let's put it that way. So in my experience, my own experience, like people were accepting, people are not accepting of it nowadays because for some reason they think that the only reason an athlete would change their sex, change their gender, whatever. I don't want to get into, I don't want to parse these things as Forrest does, and he does an excellent job parsing it. But yeah, I did kind of change my sex because I medically transitioned, and there are so many aspects of medical transition that are quite physical. I had to learn how to dance in a different way. I needed to learn how to change my physicality to accommodate the requirements of the sport I engage in. But that was the least of it. It was up here in my head that changed radically. And having people that were supportive was a big part of that. And I won't lie. There are a lot of people that were not. But also, I won't lie and tell you that all of those people remain uh, uh, on the she's a jerk side that only did this for a pickle dish side. Some of the people who were absolutely incredulous and absolutely not allies became allies over time because they saw me as a person. And I think that's something I hope will be possible for any trans person in whatever, wherever their transition leads. Don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. It's not too late. And don't give up hope. It doesn't work out well for every day of the week. It certainly doesn't work out every day of the week. And it doesn't work out 100% of the time. There are hard times, and those hard times can smash into you at any point in time. But hang in there, kids. You'll all be good.
I have your quote. It's "I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me." I know you were going for that quote a second ago. There it is, Stuart Smalley, and that's true for every one of you out there. So anybody watching this, you're good enough, you're smart enough, and we like you. We appreciate you being here too. Thank you for sharing your personal experiences with us, Steph. I enjoy them. I know you worry that people get bored and think you're long-winded, but I like your stories. I do. So,
well, at the moment, I'm pretty psyched about what's coming up this weekend. I'm just kind of pumped about that, and I'm focused on that, and I'm focused on doing shit in life. And it's like there's so much bullshit going on in the news, and I do see it. It can and has affected me. I'm not saying it hasn't affected me at all, but goddamn, it's like if you part of the I don't know if it's activism. It's to try to live. I think it is. I think it's an act of courage to try to live in a lot of respects. But I don't think that's particularly unique to trans people. I think that, it's hard. Life is hard. It sucks.
Surviving when the powerful don't want you to is a radical act.
Indeed.
Thriving is just rage against the machine, act of rebellion. Yeah. So you see these three bitches up on your screen thriving right now. Yeah, you can do that too. We believe in you. We think that that you're going to be able to succeed in your transition. If you're a trans person, if you're an ally or you have a family member, be there for them and support them through their transition in these rocky times where society is trying to frame us as something that we're not.
Share their stories, share their joy. There is joy is palpable. It's the joy, the emotion, the thrill of living is something that is something that's infectious. And and so is the other side, the dark side. The everything sucks side. It can go either way, but share more of the joy. Share more of the joy. That's like we were talking earlier. That the stories we were talking earlier about. It's like the way the media portrays our stories have always been, in some regards, at least the news part, not necessarily the editorial, not the Life magazine 6-page spread, but the editorial part is like trans this, trans that, and how tragic. And I often like the Marsha P. Johnson story is like it's often framed in the news part of it as a tragedy, but it's actually a glorious story of a hero.
The end part is a little bit tragic, but
it is.
It's. I think Marsha knew it was probably going to go that way at some point, which is why she left that message asking people not to cry when she was gone, but to celebrate that you're still here.
Right.
Can before we wrap up, I just want to say a quick word to to Snoop Dogg of all people. Dude.
Really?
What? Well, he did this interview recently, and he was talking about going to see that Buzz Lightyear movie, which was just like a sleeper movie. It didn't really splash on my radar. Anyway, he was complaining that his grandchild got asked him how two women had a child together. I'm like, show him the gin and juice video. No, not really, but like if you can appreciate lesbian relationships in that capacity, you should be able to accept them as part of society and be able to explain. That's actually a good opportunity to explain that some people have kids and some people adopt kids. That's a perfectly simple and good opportunity to explain that. Because I bet your kid has somebody, or your grandkid, or whoever has somebody adopted in their class. You know,
it isn't even necessarily adoption. I mean, so we in Lightyear, it's the movie that Andy saw that made him want a Buzz Lightyear toy that caused the movie Toy Story to happen. So it's supposedly that's what that is. And in the movie, they have faster than light spaceships, interstellar colonies with rapid 3D printing, laser fabrication, they have disruptor blasters, and they have freaking time travel. The idea that they could do what we're on the verge of right now, using skin cells to create gametes that can fertilize another person's egg, or vice versa, that they could do that in that future, it's a bridge too far. It's too out there. I mean,
Oh yeah, that's too futuristic, too far fetched.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Just it isn't necessarily the case.
Yeah, never mind all of that. I mean, it's the whole notion is, do you want to have kids thing? If you're transitioning in your, early on in your own puberty, it's like that is part of the discussion. Do you want to preserve germ cells from yourself to, for, future biological descent? That's part of the discussion. It's not like it's not like we're unaware of the issues involved here. Like all of them, the reproductive issues, this and that and the other thing. It's like, I don't know what cis people think we're told when we start going through this whole thing. I don't know what they think. What could they do? They think we don't think about these things? It's insane to think that you wouldn't think about these things. It indicates to me that there's a tremendous disconnect between what a person going through medical transition and what kind of medical advice is being discussed, because of course we do. We're people. It's part of life. Anywho.
You're right. Yeah.
All right. What do we got going on? What's coming up for you and Ember? I got nothing. I've already told you what's coming up for me, but what's going on with you and Ember? What are you doing?
Me and you, Steph, are doing Charlatans Web on Monday.
We are.
We're talking about the Nubian UFO cult. So that'll be fun. That's over on my channel, Hive Sci. Saturday, live from the Hive. You still have time to vote on the polls before they're closed. If you want to try to give directions on what we cover and what topic we speak about, you can still vote. So that's for Saturday morning show. And what else? I guess that's about it. Ember, passing you the talking stick. What's up, babe?
All right. Well, we're still trying to work out tech issues for the new morning show. Tentatively Java and Jugs, but we'll see how that goes. Once we figure out how to get everybody in the same room and those who want to stream doing so, then we'll probably be back Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. That's what it looks like right now, subject to change.
Does the tech involve waking up? That's my question.
It is helpful, yes. Although now we will be after Chris Mallard's the Damn Show. So it'll be 2 hours later, which is considerably easier, especially for us East Coast people. Me personally, on my channel, Better Than Ember, I'm gonna try to do a morning lunch-ish show tomorrow and see how that goes. I found a video from famed transphobe Kathleen Stock, who's been pivoting toward purity culture.
Oh, brilliant.
Awesome.
It suits her. Absolutely suits her, right?
It's what could possibly go wrong. Sunday debate reviews with Mark Reed over on
is icky.
Which is weird for such a proudly out there lesbian, but whatever. And it's such an ironic story too. Like, she's shaming Bonnie Blue for being an adult content creator, while she herself is selling out her values for money. Like, you're doing the thing you're accusing her of, Kathleen. What? But I'll get into that tomorrow. Saturday for us in the Western Hemisphere, debate reviews with Mark over on his channel, and then Sunday back at my place for the Sunday show, which is kind of like a pre-show for Bad Science Sunday, and we'll see what next week brings. It's constantly interesting. There's all sorts of fun stuff happening. So find all my links because I'm all over the damn place. I'm here. There's the backup channel. There's the channel for the show with the other ladies. There's all my links are on betterthanember.com.
All right.
All right.
Anything else? Got anything else going on? Or is that it? Is this a wrap? Is this where we get to tell everybody to like and subscribe?
Which is great because I got a migraine right behind my eye
Well,
here.
Oof.
In that case, please do like, subscribe, share the video, do all the things, and we'll see you next week. Thanks all. Bye.
Toodles.